Well, hi there. Long time no see. Let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about applying STEM principles and the 3 different reviews that go along with it. I'm hoping that you remember how to get to it, but if not, here's a quick walkthrough. If you don't remember what element it comes out of element E. I'd scroll down to either finding component 2 and going to it that way, or just scrolling down to the bottom of a page and jumping straight to element E. Below this table, you'll find the preface and everything about element E as far as the concepts and objectives. You may have noticed that in element E, inside of this table, is the Applying STEM Reviews option. Click on it. When you get to this page, you'll see all 3 Applying STEM Review options. Notice on this page, it says below you'll find access to the 3 different STEM reviews. They're 3 different assignments, and each one is identical to the other, with the exception of the name. This allows you to turn it in 3 different times. Let's use Applying STEM Review number 1 as an example. Introduction. As teams complete Component 1, Component 2, and Component 3, they'll find a need to utilize science, technology, engineering, and math in varying degrees. It's important to point out that the practice and implementation of these principles are crucial to any problem-solving strategy. So therefore, make sure that the documentation that you have of any STEM principles is utilized. Designers might use the power of a spreadsheet to collect, analyze, and graph data that's collected from a survey. Engineers may apply Newton's laws when studying the impact of, say, a test dummy on a dashboard of a new car in a test crash scenario. Your team might find itself utilizing STEM in ways that may seem minor and other ways that seem obvious. Documenting all of the steps, processes, calculations, concepts studied, tools utilized, and engineering that takes place during your design process is what this assignment is all about. Resources. Like all of the other activities, you're going to have to use your E&B and then some device connected to the internet. You'll also need to use any work that you've collected between the beginning of the semester and now. You might notice that there's 2 other options here. Documenting the engineering design process presentation. It's okay, you should definitely look at it. And the engineering formula sheet documents. You should be very familiar with these by now, but in case you're not, look them over. There's also some symbols there that are important. That presentation, 15 slides. It's worth looking at. It breaks down for you what an engineering notebook is whenever you're using it for, say, process documentation versus outcome documentation, or what you might want to consider as process documentation and what you might want to consider as outcome documentation. Don't know what those are? Look it up. They're in here. Make sure you understand them. Make sure you consider this presentation to be a team priority. Oh, look, 2 things you're very familiar with. The engineering formula sheet, very similar to what you've seen in the past years. You may notice that EDD is only at the bottom of a couple of pages, but I'm going to tell you right now, if there's something you need from one of the other pages, please make sure that you utilize it. And then there's engineering symbols. Have you ever looked at this page before? Lots of good information in here. If you're going to use some sort of symbol, something that we need to know as a standard, make sure that you've documented it well. Make sure that you're using the same one that comes off of this page, if it is in fact on here. If you have to make up a symbol for it, make sure it's not on this page, and make sure you tell us in your technical reports what it stands for. Procedure. This part's all about the inclusion of proposals and review dates. Like many other tasks in EDD, this one is expected to be done concurrently. Unlike many of the other assignments in this course, this one is one in which your team will revisit multiple times, one for each of the big proposals that you have to provide a presentation for. Project proposal, the PDR design proposal, and of course, your critical design review, your final design proposal. In all seriousness, by the due date for each proposal, your team should add information that they've gathered about the use of STEM in their work to whatever it is they're creating, some sort of online portfolio, but for sure the technical reports of element E, the section or document that they're including that gives us the information about the STEM principles you used. By the due date of the first review, the team should be able to show me, the instructor, the explanatory writing and organized collection of your work that's pertaining to STEM. And of course, the intent is that teams will be able to quickly and easily transfer whatever writing you come up with for this assignment into your portfolio or technical report if it's not already presented in this form by the due date for your reviews. 3 reviews for element E. Each will take place just before the proposal that follows it. What to include for each review. Depending on the problem and solution presented during your proposals, you'll have utilized a variety of STEM principles and put many to practice when applying them to your work. Your team may have collected and manipulated survey or test data about the validity and justification of the problem and solution. They may have performed statistical or cost or weight or load calculations, or they may have been in touch with experts who helped with the use of technology leading up to a proposal. All of this is important and needs to be included. Number 1, clearly and precisely record all documentation of applied STEM principles and practices in your E&Bs. Even if that original work was haphazardly written on a separate piece of paper, or a conversation about something was discussed in person or online or over a telephone, if it pertains to science, technology, engineering, or math, it needs to be documented or transcribed in your E&B. Where does it need to be put? In your E&B. At some point or another, this is important information, and the first place it should go is in your E&B. But, Mr. Davidson, what if I have it all on a Google Doc? Look up the word transcribe. It needs to be in your E&B. If calculations are conducted, if science concepts are documented, or the engineering or technology used needs to be explained, then you need to include it. Got an annotated sketch or graphic organizer? Include that too. Number 2, gather all proof of this documentation in your team's shared Google Drive folder as well. For your team's own benefit, make sure it's clearly labeled, named, and organized really well so that you can all access it at any time that you need to use it. Number 3, as a team, discuss the most pertinent and useful examples of STEM that you've used. In other words, if you utilize STEM in some way and all it did was prove that something was invalid or not justified, remember that that is just as important and should also be included. And remember, at any step that you may be on, no matter which review this is, during any of the discussions that you have where your team focuses on STEM, you need to focus that conversation around the STEM that's used currently, or that's being planned on being used in the future, or that could potentially be used in the future. Number 4, take notes. Take notes during the discussion. Someone from your team needs to take notes. Those notes can be included in element E's portion of your portfolio or technical report. Take notes. Make sure that the writing used to explain this STEM information is in the language of report and not the language of affection. In technical writing, nobody cares about how you feel about some principle or math or technology. They only care about the facts. Number 5, prepare and also do review the information your team has collected and or written about with me, your instructor. This is an all or nothing assignment. Your team either has information to share during the review and thusly include in each proposal, or it doesn't earn the points. Don't forget to also work on those other concurrent assignments. 20 points. Upload a website URL or a document, your choice. Well, that brings us to the end of this. Don't forget that there are 3 different reviews, one for each of the proposals. These assignments are all the same, They just have a different name. Be sure you're turning in the correct one by the correct due date. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Have a great night, and I'll see you next time.